This is ABC15 Mornings.
This is something you got to pay really close attention to.
There's world leaders doing just that. We have the latest developments as the new coronavirus variant begins to spread.
And this time of year, most of us were shopping for our loved ones, but what if we can't think of anything to get them? Coming up, we're going to dive deeper into the science of finding that perfect gift.
Also, I know a lot of you going to bed with your forks up because a huge win for the Sun Devils. Later on, we're going to show you what made it extra special for one of ASU's longest standing employees. I love stories like this. So cool. It'll get you smiling on this Sunday. So we want to welcome you to ABC 15 Weekend Mornings. Starting you off with a view of the Tovaria Castle. They've changed the color of their lights. They were a little more festive for Halloween. Now we have the multi-colors. And you can see the camera shaking a little bit because we've got a little breeze out there. It's making it cold this morning. We're so glad you're waking up with us, though. I'm Nohelani Graf.
And I'm Mark Thompson, and we were just talking about the number of people that are already on the roadways this morning. A lot of people getting an early start to try to get back home. We know this is one of those days where we got to think about going back to work.
That's
again.
The truth. It's so hard. So you know
Fortunately, I've been working the whole time.
There you go. And we appreciate that. So you know what? Go ahead and snuggle up this morning. Enjoy those final hours because it's chilly out there for our standards, certainly here in the Valley. Phoenix Metro is at 52 degrees, but most of our outlying Valley cities are in the 40s this morning. We've got a light breeze around 5 miles an hour. It's been up to 7 miles an hour. So when you feel it, it bites a little bit. And that bite is going to stay in the air for a while here. By 9 o'clock, we're still at 59 degrees. By 10, we're in the mid 60s. So if you're going for a run this morning, you're definitely going to want to bundle up if you're heading out earlier. There's that wind blowing again on this particular camera. So our high today is going to be pretty drastic from where we are now. We're going to go up to the 80s this afternoon, but our time in that higher temperature will be short-lived. We are running warm for this time of year. We should be at 71 degrees, and we're not that far off from the record of 86. That was set way back in 1901. If you're going to be putting up the lights later this afternoon, by noon, that's when we hit the 70s, and we'll linger in the 70s through about that 4 o'clock hour. That's when we step on over into the 80s for just a little while. But clear, sunny skies, so that'll help putting up those holiday decorations. I'll have a look at that statewide forecast in case you are hitting the road so that you know those conditions. That's coming up in that full, most accurate forecast.
Right now, we're going to get to some breaking news just in this morning. One man taken to the hospital after a house fire in Phoenix. This is video that was sent in by a viewer earlier this morning. Now, we're told that it started around 4 o'clock this morning on Wyman Avenue, that is near 79th Avenue and Lower Buckeye Road. The man who was hurt is expected to recover from his injuries. Investigators staying on top of this scene all morning long as they try and figure out how that fire was started.
Right now, police are working on an overnight car crash near Chase Field downtown, and the investigation, we have to tell you, is now impacting light rail operations. We do have a live look so that you can see the scene right now, and boy, a lot of evidence markers. This was a messy crash there. You can see that black car involved as well, and police still on scene. Our crew out there is working to learn more, but so far, Valley Metro tells us that eastbound trains will be arriving at the westbound stations downtown. So if you're using the light rail today, no matter where you are, really, you want to check that Valley Metro app for more information on your route before you head out, and that'll also let you know if there are any delays or time changes. We also are tracking breaking news internationally this morning. The U.S. Geological Survey reporting a major earthquake in Peru. Preliminary reports say it had a magnitude of 7.5. The National Weather Service is reporting there is no tsunami threat, so that's the good news. But damage reports, we just don't have those in just yet, and it is still clear at this time if anyone was hurt, so we'll certainly be tracking that story for the latest.
And today, one of the busiest travel days of the year. Lots of people headed home after a long holiday weekend. And we're going to take a live look right now at LAX, where things have been pretty calm so far overnight, but pretty much all airports are expected to pick up throughout the day. If your flight is today, AAA is saying that you should arrive at least 2 hours early to account for any extra long lines at those security checkpoints. And if you are hitting the road, leave as early as possible. The best time to drive today, it's going to be in the morning, while congestion is expected to pick up from 1 until 7 o'clock.
This morning, scientists are racing to study the new Omicron coronavirus variant, and world leaders are rushing to contain that mutation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's already been detected all throughout Europe with known cases in the UK, Germany, Italy, and Belgium, and 2 cases even found in Australia. The European Union now joining America in restricting some travel to several countries in southern Africa. Epidemiologists from Johns Hopkins University say that it's probably a little too late, adding that variant is probably already on its way, and it's been spreading now for 2 weeks. These new travel restrictions are going against advice from the World Health Organization, however.
The WHO warning against overreactions, at least until the variant is thoroughly studied. ABC's Christine Sloan has more from New York.
Growing concerns around the world about a new variant of COVID-19, first identified in Botswana this month. The World Health Organization classifying Omicron as a variant of concern.
Its ability to infect people who have recovered from infection and even people who've been vaccinated make us say this is something you got to pay really close attention to.
The United States on the growing list of countries shutting down travel from South Africa and several other countries beginning Monday.
This probably is already global. It is possible that the travel restrictions will help slow things down a little bit, but it will not have a large effect.
Officials in South Africa unhappy with the travel bans, saying the country is being punished for its advanced genomic sequencing that helped detect the variant. Secretary of State Antony Blinken trying to mitigate South Africa's frustration, praising the country for quickly identifying the variant and for its transparency. But the Biden administration is standing by the decision.
We'll take it one step at a time, but as of now, we've done what we believe is necessary.
Starting tonight, Israel says it will close borders to foreign visitors for 2 weeks. Right now, it has 1 case of the variant. In Europe, 61 people who arrived in the Netherlands on 2 flights from South Africa have tested positive for the coronavirus and are in isolation. Further tests are underway.
They will be sequenced to find out if we have to deal with a new version of the coronavirus.
Germany has identified 2 cases of the variant in people who had traveled from South Africa, and Italy has confirmed a case of the variant in a traveler from Mozambique. Meantime, Abbott Laboratories, which is a big U.S. manufacturer of COVID-19 tests, says it has looked at the Omicron variant and is confident its tests will detect the variant. Christine Sloan, ABC News, New York.
And back here in Arizona, the number of positive COVID cases, they continue to rise. More than 3,500 new cases were reported Saturday, and Arizona is one of the leading states in deaths this month. This is concerning on its own. ABC15's health insider, Dr. Shad Marvasti, telling us that those numbers, they are expected to rise even further in the next few weeks because of holiday travel.
Expect in about 10 to 14 days from now to see the numbers edge up, probably anywhere between maybe 2,000 or 3,000 more cases per day.
And of course, Marvasti tells us that the best way to stop this spike is to wear a mask and get vaccinated and get a test and stay home if you don't feel well. Phoenix investigators, they need your help. Do you recognize this man? He is suspected of shoplifting at a Family Dollar store, then hitting a worker with his car during the escape. Now, this happened near West Northern Avenue and North 35th. If you know this man, call Silent Witness at 480-WITNESS.
The Sky Harbor strike is now entering day 7. Restaurant and concession workers are now accusing their employer of unfair labor practices. The group of HMS host employees say the company is violating federal labor laws, trying to stop them from striking. But we're told they're going to stay on those picket lines until there is a new contract with higher pay and better benefits.
Well, they're getting more and more popular, but experts, they've got a new warning and concerns about those buy now, pay later programs, what you need to know about the fine print.
But first, it's not easy to find the perfect gift, but there is a science behind it, so our friends at The List are explaining coming up next.
Welcome back, everybody. We know it can be tough to find that perfect gift for your loved ones, and some people, they've just put so much pressure on themselves. But did you know there's actually a science behind it all? Our friends at The List explain.
Believe it or not, getting someone a gift for the holidays can teach us a lot about our brains.
Gift giving isn't just about stuff or things. It's about growing our brains using the process of gift giving.
To learn more, we turn to clinical neuropsychologist Dr. Sarah Allen. First of all, Dr. Sarah says gift giving starts as a listening game.
You want to listen to what someone wants, what they read, what they wear, and you really want to get to know who they are and what they're looking for. And this builds the front of our brain.
She says think of the front of the brain like our secretary. It helps us coordinate, plan, and problem solve. So
we build things like attention and executive skills. We actually get a depth to our brain when we're listening.
And she says not only are we building our frontal lobe, but the center of our brain, which deals with emotions.
Because when we're listening, we are feeling things, and that tells us what we need to remember. So if we're having an interaction with somebody and we're learning and we're listening for gifts, we're also experiencing an emotion about that.
And if what you hear makes you feel a strong emotion, we know that's the one we need to remember. And that means you're gonna win at holiday gift giving this year. Next, she says in order to give a thoughtful gift, we need to be able to take another person's perspective.
This really builds the empathy components of our brain. Things like understanding what another person is thinking or feeling. We call that theory of mind in neuropsychology, and that is a really high-level skill.
For instance,
when you see really young kids, you see that they want to give you what they want to get. They want to give you that ABC game because they just think you're really going to like it, because that's coming from their perspective.
But as we get older,
they say, well, this person likes Barbies, so we're going to give them Barbies.
She says our brains use things called mirror neurons to help put ourselves in someone else's shoes, because
they have a different perspective than you do, and then being able to match all those things together in the perfect gift.
Finally, Dr. Sarah says it's all about a shared experience.
We want to share in the experience of opening that gift, and that's going to actually shoot chemicals to our reward center of our brain, just like it will the person we're giving the gift to. This is something as simple as looking at the picture that we know our friend is looking at.
Or we can go a step further and give them something you can share together at a later date. For example,
for younger kids, can be things like aquarium passes. It can be things like robotics club. For adults, it can be trips.
Or even concerts or cooking classes.
When you share in that experience together, you're going to get a double dose of reward system. So it's like giving a gift, but on steroids.
Giving us a new perspective this holiday season by learning about the brain science of gift giving is at the top of the list.
Well, that is pretty neat, and maybe that will help give you some insight all of a sudden now as you're browsing your wish list, your own wish list, or buying for other people today. Our forecast is going to be a little warmer today, so if you are heading out to the store, just know that you might want to layer up because we're starting off pretty chilly, but we're going to warm up today into the 80s. It's going to be sunny, clear skies out there as well. Futurecast showing us we don't have any clouds in the forecast statewide for the next 36 hours at least. You could barely tell this thing is in motion if it weren't for the clock up at the top. So we're going to stay clear and calm, but that's also going to help with the commute for anybody who's traveling back home out of town after this long holiday weekend. This morning, bundle up if you are headed out early. It's going to be crisp. It's going to hit your lungs when you step outside, but check out all the 40s on the board. We're down to 43 in Chandler at this hour. It's 41 degrees in Maricopa, 47 in Buckeye, 46 in Surprise, 45 in Wickenburg at this hour, 49 in Tempe. Just a small handful of valley cities are sitting in the 50s like Glendale, Scottsdale, and the central portion of Phoenix. Across the rest of the state, we've got 30s in Safford this morning, 40s in Globe and Casa Grande. We're in the 40s and 50s out to our west, central portion of the state, down to the freezing mark, 32 degrees in Prescott this morning. In the 50s in Sedona, so pretty mild. North of the rim, though, mostly in the 20s. It is a cold start in the high country, but certainly seasonal for this time of year. Back here in the valley, if you're going to hit the links today, you've got a golf game planned. It's going to be a great day. to get out on the course. Maybe this morning you want to scroll around and book a tee time because the weather is going to be so nice. As I mentioned before, the morning hours, you're going to want a longer light sleeve. Certainly, I know once you get going, that blood will get flowing, but it's still going to be cold out there, and we're going to be at just 64 degrees at 10 o'clock this morning. But then by noon, we'll transition into the 70s. It'll be 73 degrees, and then climbing. By 2 o'clock, we work our way into the upper 70s, so you're really going to start to feel that warmth. That sun is going to be shining down, and then we'll cross over into the 80s in that 4 o'clock hour. So our time in the 80s, very short-lived. We're back into the 60s by 8 o'clock at night. You can see 80 degrees is that forecast high, basically valley-wide, with a variation of a degree or two in Santan Valley, Cave Creek, and Anthem for today. Across the rest of the state, mixed bag of upper 70s, low 80s across the south and out to our west, but we'll hit 80 in Yuma as well as Casa Grande. North of the rim, we're going to stay in the 50s from Show Low through Flagstaff. The Grand Canyon is going to warm to just 61 degrees today. Just south of there, we will hit 70 in Sedona. Flagstaff is going to stay cool the next couple of days here in the upper 50s, but then by Wednesday, starting to trend down into the mid and even low 50s. Here in the valley, our 80s are here now. They're going to stick around through the middle of next week. And then by Thursday, we start trending down back into the upper 70s. I'll show you, though, what the weather system is doing and if there is any moisture in the foreseeable future. That's coming up a little later this morning, Mark.
Now on your Sunday morning, Small Business Saturday, a success in the Valley. Coming up at 6:30, we're going to hear from a few local shops who say that it was a little more important this year.
First, we're going to take an in-depth dive into an Arizona city that could become our state's next major tourist destination and the history that it is hoping to leave in the past. This is a story you don't want to miss. Stay with us this morning, Arizona.
Well, as you know, our state draws people from all over the world to see the sights like the Grand Canyon, Monument Valley, Horseshoe Bend. This morning, Justin Pizzera shows us what Colorado City has to offer as that town hopes to move on from its polygamist past.
Tucked away along the Arizona Strip, you'll find two adjoining towns, Colorado City, Arizona, and Hilldale, Utah. A small street is the only thing dividing the two. Locals call this area the Crick. The towns are small and remote, nestled right up to the Canaan Mountain wilderness. It's a tight-knit community with a very complex history. Since the beginning, the towns have always been associated with polygamy. To understand where the towns are today, we need to go back just a few years ago. At one point, the entire town was owned by the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The church operated and controlled everything: the government, businesses, education, the police department. They even assigned families their home. Nobody owned anything. It was a refuge, though, for FLDS members to practice their faith away from the rest of the world. Outsiders were not welcome. But things changed when the church's prophet was sentenced to life in prison for sexual assault. He declared God had left the town. Then in 2016, the federal government said the church could no longer discriminate against non-believers from owning property. Members started to scatter. Since then, the town has been going through a rapid transformation.
Oh, I would not change my childhood for the whole world. Like, it was so much fun.
Darlene Stubbs grew up in Colorado City, but she left the faith and her family when she was 15. She wanted an education and a life outside polygamy. Her brother Dalton also left the church in the town to work in North Dakota. Now, as adults, they're both back, living here and working to bring tourism to town.
It's a passion. I care about the community. I want to see it go in the right direction.
It's not something that I'm ashamed of or want to hide that I grew up in a polygamous family. I am proud of my roots, and I really feel like that we should incorporate that into our tourism.
The towns are located near some of the most popular destinations in the country: Zion National Park, the Grand Canyon, Bryce Canyon, and Lake Powell.
I've been training horses for about 35, 36 years, and we've been doing trail rides for about 18 years.
Del Timpson owns Blue Sage Adventures. He says more than half of his business comes from international travelers wanting custom trail rides in areas far less busy than nearby Zion National Park.
I mean, we have some beautiful country to ride in. Our most popular trail is we leave from here and just cross the road and go up into a canyon called Indian Box Canyon.
An array of Airbnbs are popping up. Now, some are more unique and adventurous, like this glamping campground. It is far from a hotel, but the tents are perched in the mountain with air conditioning and beds. The views are hard to top.
Overall, it's just nightly.
Across town, Brian Stubbs helps operate Sandstone Adventures, a new covered wagon Airbnb. It's life, or at least a night, on the open range. The business has been so good, he's now expanding.
This is what we're going to be doing by spring. We'll be opening this up, and like I say, you won't recognize the place once we're done.
The town is also getting its first winery. It's under construction now, but it's expected to open soon. The Edge of the World Brewery is the place for locals and tourists.
Tourism is about 60% of our revenue.
Raymond Hammond started brewing beers 11 years ago in a garage and then turned it into a business. He was the first person in Colorado City to ever sell beer.
We're conveniently located right in the center, so we catch a lot of folks that way, and they always have a good time.
Then there's the Cricker Wagon. You can't miss the literal party wagon pulled through town by a John Deere tractor. It's the town's version of a party bike you'll see in larger cities. In the background of it all, Mother Nature. Extensive trails in the area link hikers with some of the most spectacular views around. Darlene says that alone is a selling point.
When I go hiking at the trails I was hiking as a child, when I was a child there wouldn't be really any vehicles from out of state. Now I go to those hikes, it's hard to find a parking spot. Like, there's license plates from all over.
Darlene says that's the goal, to bring people to town from all over. The town certainly doesn't shy away from talking about its complex past, but they're hoping people will leave that reputation where it belongs, in the past.
I love that people are feeling welcome enough to stop and hike, to go horseback riding, to go and have a beer at the brewery. I love that people feel welcome.
In Colorado City, Arizona, Justin Pizzera, ABC 15 Arizona.